So if you go to that link, it will send you to the space where you will download a very nice Mercury retrograde workbook. Okay, but we're actually going to look at it in here. So it's got everything, how to start reading through the charts, talking about Mercury and Aquarius, and then it's going to guide you through some questions so that you know what days and to start pulling in definitions of how these things are happening for yourself. Okay, so I give you everything from house keywords, aspect keywords, planetary keywords. And the reason for all of this is because there's, when you know what's going to happen before it happens, when you know, for example, that a square is going to be coming up during this Mercury retrograde. And remember yesterday how we talked about Mercury retrograde, any retrograde is a time to learn a lesson, right? So if you know what days and essentially what the energy of those lessons are going to look like, you pay attention. They aren't like something where you're like, oh, what's going on? This is crazy. You're ready for them. You know what they're asking of you. It's like taking a pop quiz after you've already taken the pop quiz to know the answers, right? Sure, there's a couple things that could go wonky, but in overall, the more prepared you are for life, the easier that it is on you, for you. And so in going through this, you're going to be able to know what's coming up for you when. So it's not the prettiest, but we'll work on that, okay? I'm just gonna go with what it's not the how good it looks, it's the message, folks. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna guide you through where is this retrograde Aquarius happening in your chart, okay? So we're gonna look at what house down here is being transited. So this is like the home front of where you're learning these lessons for Mercury in retrograde. And you can print these out, but actually tell me in the comments if you're watching this live, watching this on replay, do you actually prefer these things to be printable where you actually fill them out from there? Or do you just do them in your own journal? Because I'm my own journal person and I never do printables, but I will happily do them if that is how y'all like to do it. So please tell me in the comments how you like to do it. And then we're going to move into planets and aspects. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go to your natal chart. And actually, what I would like you to do is go to astroseek.com. Okay, astroseek.com. And we're actually going to pull up a chart for today. Hopefully, this will work for me. All right, New York. So what you actually will do it this way. You go to birth chart calculator, okay? So you put in your birth chart information. So we'll say the 11th of June, 1976. I'm just making up one here. New York, right? And so the ways that you're going to be able to look at this, I like this one because it gives you other options. Like you have a shape of your chart and this helps you figure that out. This is my preference for free ones, whatever you use. But when you pull this up, you see the birth chart, okay? Which I know can be really, really confusing. But over here in the side panel, it gives you the planet, the sign, and the degree. And so in the guide, I actually give you what the signs are in here as well, so that you know, and a little refresher on what the chart is. But here we can see a conjunction. And the reason why we're going to do this, so you're going to go through this and you're going to look at if you have any planets between 11 and 26 degrees Aquarius. Okay, oop. How do I get out of that? Oh no, it's like, can I move it? All right. So you're going to go over here and you're going to see, are there any planets between Aquarius? First, let's see if there's any Aquarius. There's not. But say there was, say this was Aquarius instead of Gemini, right? We can look at the signs there. This was say 20 degrees Aquarius. We would mark down that we have a sun at 20 degrees Aquarius. And these are degrees, and this is how far into the degrees we are. This third number over here is what house it's in. So for example, in this chart, we've got a 12th house. We can see here, 12th house sun. We also can see that there is a 12th house Mercury. So just a quick refresher, because I know I go too fast on these things, is these sections here, the outer wheel are the signs, the inner wheel with the numbers cut into segments are the houses, okay? So what it's going to direct you to do is go through A square would be happening if you have planets between 11 and 26 degrees of Taurus or Scorpio. So let's see here. Almost, we have a Taurus in there, but it's at 28 degrees, so it doesn't count. This maybe not be a good example chart. Oh, but I see one here. We have an opposition in Leo. And so when you're going through this, see, we have an opposition. Opposition between Leo and Leo at 11 to 26 degrees Leo. So we would mark that down, that we have an opposition at with Mars at Leo. And what this means is that when this Mercury retrogrades, it is going to cross over that Mars. It's going to impact it. So you're going to have action with that Mars, okay? So what that means, you write that down and you write down what degree is there. So we had a 14-degree Mars. So what that means, you're scroll down to this page, is whatever planet you have, so we look where the degree is. I just pointed with my finger, y'all. Where the degree is, and then this is going to show you what dates you're going to have action, okay? So for that 14-degree Mars, what's going to happen is it's on January 17th and 18th, February 13th, and March 1st and 2nd. And if you have any planets in that 11, 12, 13, 14, you can see how they have multiple days. So any planets that are in your chart during those times, it's a really significant lesson for you. This is a big one to hit home. And you can imagine how amazing that would be to know ahead of time when you're going to be going through something and learning something significant. So just to start off with, moving through your chart, seeing if you have any planets in these degrees that I have listed in the, and I guess you could just write it down, honestly, but what we have listed there. And that means that those are going to have the pieces that have action for you. And those are the days that it's going to be happening. So then what we're going to do is you are going to use the rest of this guide to actually journal yourself home or journal yourself into what is actually going on. So when we're looking at this, now that we have the dates and times, we look at what planets are involved, what aspect is involved, what houses are involved, what signs are involved, and finally those dates, okay? So here's an example of how to use this. Excuse me. Oh, well, let me say this first. So the planets are the energies that are at play in your life. And I want to remind you that this comes with a whole entire gigantic guide of how to go through all these. It is worth it to download anyways, just to have this to print out, to have for your future, to keep in mind, because I go really into detail into how to use it or how those things affect us. And you can also use it in your natal chart as well. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Okay, so the planets are the energies that are at play. So in that example of the Mercury and the, excuse me, Mars, is there's a certain amount of Mercury is our mindset, our communication, how we're talking to one another. And Mars is our motivation, our external willpower. So when we're having that opposition that we talked about in this birth chart that we just looked at, is there some kind of integration that needs to be made between how this person's talking about their life or not talking about their life, maybe a better way of putting it, and how they're taking action. So whether they're all talk, are you all talk and no follow through, or vice versa, are you just taking action without thinking it through, without properly communicating it to people in your life? And that would depend on where the next part is the houses. Where are these energies coming up in real life or internally? And a good way of viewing that is any planets that are above the horizon in your natal chart is kind of going to come from the outside world, whereas the ones below the horizon, the first through 6 houses, are kind of things that are going on internally for you. So for example, let's say it was between 4th house and 10th house. So again, we're talking Mercury to Mars, and there's an integration that needs to be happening between how we're sharing, how we're talking our mindset, and how we're taking action. And the integration piece is going to come between work in the world and our home life, how we're talking to ourselves and how we're showing up externally. So there may be, again, that piece of, are you all talk and no follow through? Is it time to, have you been saying you want to go after your dreams, change your career, da, 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 da. But at the end of the day, you're not actually taking any actions to change who you are internally to show up for that. So that's the example off of that chart. The signs are the natural expression and how we're learning the lesson. So in that scenario, again, the Mars was in Leo. So what that's saying is natally, which means in your birth chart, naturally, in the fullness of your expression, you like to, or this person likes to take action based off of being seen, being able to lead, things that they're excited about, laughing about, joyful about. It's kind of like taking, spontaneous playful action slash action that can get them I don't want to say notice, but kind of get that energy of being on stage. This isn't a bad thing. Leo's wanting to be on stage and wanting to be noticed and wanting to be on leadership roles. It's something they just naturally do. And so what's happening is the transit planet, in this case, Mercury, is coming through and it's teaching that natal Mars a lesson. Okay. So it's coming through and its expression is in Aries, or I mean, sorry, in Aquarius. And Aquarius is about progress. It's about freedom. It's about breaking out of boundaries. And so it's saying to that Mars, hey, you might have gotten lots and lots of attention for acting in a certain way, showing up for a role in a certain way, but we're breaking out of that. You need to be more authentic. I don't care if you got cheered on for, having that conversation at work, having conversations at work about how much life sucks and how you're never going to get out of here or whatever it may be. But something's got to come through and make progress. You got to change how you're talking about things, change how you're thinking about things. So that transit planet is basically teaching your birth chart planet how to express itself in a new way. And that's what you're learning as well. And then finally, what are the days that these are happening? So what you would do, and again, I did this where you have a journal piece where you have you're doing it in your own journal, but what you would write down for each of those ones that you have written down from conjunction, square, trine, you're going to write down the 2 planets that are involved, the aspect, the houses, the signs, or sign if it was a conjunction, and then your dates of action. So in this example, I have used, this was off a different chart that I had laying around. It was mine, just to be real. It was mine. The planets involved are Mercury and Pluto. So this Mercury retrograde is crossing over my natal Pluto. And the aspect involved is a square. And if you scroll down here, I talk a lot about these. So squares are tension. Okay, they're a challenge, a crisis that arrives. And what it's begging you to do is to ease it up, to open it up, find a new way forward. It's for realignment. And so I give you examples of what these look like and for each of the ones. So I already know during those dates here listed, January 21st, February 9th, and March the 7th, I'm going to have some kind of crisis between how I'm sharing my mindset, how I'm communicating, and my natal Pluto, which to me is my inner wise person, inner ancestor, right? It's that part of me. I'm a Scorpio anyways. I'm Pluto ruled. That part of me that wants to make a lasting impact, wants to live in a way that has just as much meaning for my great grandchildren as it does in my own life. I'm really big with ancestry and creating things that last. And so a lot of this tension that's going to come up is, am I thinking in a way and am I acting in a way, communicating to the world in a way that expresses itself in a lasting way? So of course, this is also my 2nd house of money, and my 5th house of creativity is what the 2 ones that are activated. So I wrote here, during the dates listed, this person, this mindset and communication, Mercury will be confronted with a challenge, square aspect, to transform and change Pluto. This challenge will ask them to access the gift of their inner wise woman, an ancestor, into 2nd house and gifts, access that gift into their creative works, their 5th house of creativity. And this is my face wondering if I get end up pregnant. Because that's also house of children. So when they're thinking about money, 2nd house, or gifts during the dates listed above, they're invited to remember to play, have fun while doing it, honoring the fact that they are here for depth and remembrance of the mysteries of life. And I actually did these squarely off of the definitions that I've given for you, where you can use those definitions as well for your own chart to see how this is happening for you. Just download it at that link. They are learning to bring the lessons of more authenticity, Aquarius, to how they express their gifts long term and build a legacy that makes them money and shares their gifts. Pluto, second house. So again, of course, this could also be a children thing for me, because as somebody who is wanting to be an ancestor, that's the quickest way to do it, I think. But also in that, obviously I create all the time. I spend all day creating this, creating right now, which means on those days when a challenge arises, creativity, money, and self-worth, the key is to learn how to be themselves and to keep moving forward, progress, Aquarius, with their creative projects. You can see how knowing these dates in advance are invaluable. So this is going to do that for you. And of course, with you being in this group in the Wise Women Collective, if you download this and you have questions as you're creating this for yourself, put them in the box. Like, come talk to me. Share it in the group. There are so many other astrologers, or at least those who have a good foundation in astrology, that I know have some really wise insights as well. So don't be afraid to come in and let us know what you are going through and what days. The other piece I want you to remember is that in doing this, the biggest lesson of Age of Aquarius is to recognize the difference between knowledge and wisdom, right? So when we have knowledge is like reading off these keywords of conjunction, of sextile, of the moon being intuitive, or negative being moody, right? You can also know how this will negatively impact you, or when you're not in the best alignment. We'll put it that way. And there's a whole difference between knowing and memorizing something and having the lived experience of it. Stoves are hot versus putting your hand on a hot stove and having that living memory, that wisdom. And, because then you can see it in the nuance. You can recognize it. It's not just something you've got to pull out of your brain. It's something that lives in your body. It's something that is very much alive. And that is what we're really called into in Age of Aquarius, is to remember the pieces of wisdom as well. So as you're actually going through these transits yourself and can recognize them as they're coming up, especially during this Mercury retrograde, you get to experience the wisdom that grows inside of you as well. You get to experience it as in its nuance. You get to recognize how these energies are at play and recognize them further in your own life. So definitely download the guide. And download the guide and share it with a friend. Your friends can download this one as well. I don't know how to stop sharing my screen now. Oh, there it is. There we go. Okay. So please let me know if you want these to be a workbook that you actually download and share. Download it and tell me what you think about it. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Does it need to be prettier? Do you want these more? Just tell me what you think. Oh, I'm not screen sharing. Okay, good. I was like, we'll figure it out eventually. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you all again soon.
Be sure to join me in the Wise Woman Facebook group, where I go live several times a week and do mini chart readings. That's right, I put my eyeballs on your chart. You're going to find an amazing community, so much support. So come on and join me in the Wise Woman Facebook group. See you soon.